أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، بارئ الخلائق أجمعين، باعث الأنبياء والمرسلين، ثم الصلاة والسلام على خير خلقه العبد المؤيد والرسول المسدد، حبيب إله العالمين أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد. وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين وصحابته المنتجبين. صلى الله عليك يا رسول الله، صلى الله عليك يا سيدي ويا مولاي يا أبا عبد الله، يا رحمة الله الواسعة ويا باب نجاة الأمة ويا عبرة كل مؤمن ومؤمنة، يا مظلوم يا غريب يا شهيد كربلاء، يا ليتنا كنا معكم سادتي فنفوز فوزا عظيما. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إلا تنصروه فقد نصره الله إذ أخرجه الذين كفروا ثاني اثنين إذ هما في الغار إذ يقول لصاحبه لا تحزن إن الله معنا. صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. A second for the love of Imams Al-Hassan and Al-Hussein. A third salawat for the love of Fatima al-Zahra with your loudest voices. The night that Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wasallam left the city of Mecca and headed towards Medina. That night, the elders and the leaders of Quraysh had decided to assassinate Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. They had decided to enter his house in the early hours of the morning and to slay him on his bed. Of course, Allah Azza wa Jal informed his messenger of this evil plan of Quraysh. Rasulullah that night asked Imam Ali alayhi salam, Ali ibn Abi Talib, to sleep in his bed and to be a sacrifice for him, knowing that he could be killed instead of Rasulullah. Amir al-Mu'mineen agreed. Rasulullah that night he left the house, although the elders of Quraysh had surrounded the house of Rasulullah. Yet Rasulullah left the house pouring sand on their faces and reciting the verse وَإِن يَكَادُ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا لِيَزْلِقُونَكَ بِأَبْصَارِهِمْ. They were not able to see Rasulullah. Rasulullah left. On his way, he saw one of his companions by the name of Abu Bakr. Abu Bakr saw Rasulullah escaping from Mecca, so he followed. By this time, the elders of Quraysh had attacked the house of Rasulullah. They came inside and they saw the one sleeping in the bed of Rasulullah is Ali ibn Abi Talib, not Rasulullah. So they realized that Rasulullah had escaped. They came out and they started following his footsteps. His footsteps in the sand. They saw that the footsteps traced to a cave. Rasulullah had entered a cave. But the strange thing about this cave was that it had webs of spiders. How could Rasulullah have entered the cave without breaking the web of the spider? This is one. Two, there was a bird sitting in his nest, on top of the cave. If Rasulullah had went inside, the bird would have left his nest or its nest. So they remained for a day or 2 days, Rasulullah and his companion Abu Bakr. They remained in the cave. When the elders of Quraysh, they gave up, they realized that if Muhammad was inside the cave, he would have left by now. They left. Rasulullah came out along with Abu Bakr and he went to Medina, stopping in Quba, waiting for Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib to arrive. On this occasion, Allah revealed the verse that we began our lecture with. إِلَّا تَنصُرُوهُ فَقَدْ نَصَرَهُ اللَّهُ. If you do not support him, Allah has supported him. إِذْ أَخْرَجَهُ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا. When the disbelievers, they drove him out. ثَانِيَ إِثْنَيْنِ إِذْ هُمَا فِي الْغَارِ. He is one of two when they were in the cave. إِذْ يَقُولُ لِصَاحِبِهِ لَا تَحْزَنْ. He told his companion, do not be sad. إِنَّ اللَّهَ مَعَنَا. Allah is with us. فَأَنزَلَ اللَّهُ سَكِينَتَهُ عَلَيْهِ. So Allah brought down His peace and calmness upon him. وَأَيَّدَهُ بِجُنُودٍ لَمْ تَرَوْهَا. And He supported him with troops that you cannot see. صلوا على محمد وعلى محمد. Having this story in mind, when Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam departed this life, there was a major debate among the Muslims. Who will be the Imam after Rasulullah? And everyone knows that Muslims split into two camps. One camp insisted that the Imam remains in the family of Rasulullah, among the Ahlul Bayt. Specifically, the Imam should remain in the cousin and brother-in-law and brother of Rasulullah, Ali ibn Abi Talib. The other camp insisted that the Khilafah belongs to the Sahaba, to the companions, and whoever is chosen from the companions, and that was Abu Bakr. Now each camp, each school of thought have their own proofs and evidence. And this has been a major argument for the past 14 centuries. Of course, the Shia, they have their own set of proof and arguments. Why is Ali ibn Abi Talib more trustworthy or is more worthy of the Khilafah and Imamah? We all know, we are all aware of the proof that we have, the Shia, for Imam Ali alayhi salam, the day of Ghadir, and so on and so forth. Many pieces of evidence and proof. Those who support the Khilafah of Abu Bakr, they also have their evidence and support. They support their argument through many narrations of Rasulullah, that Abu Bakr was this, Abu Bakr was that. They ascribe many virtues to Abu Bakr. However, The main argument for the Khilafah of Abu Bakr, to prove that Abu Bakr was the legitimate Khalifa of the Prophet, rests with two arguments, with two main arguments. One is that they claim the day that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam died on, or died in, Abu Bakr led the prayers. Rasulullah asked Abu Bakr to lead the salat. And being the imam of the salat, this is being an imam. If you are worthy of leading Muslims in prayer, then you are worthy of leading them in political affairs. So this is one. Two, the story of the cave. They say, look, the Quran testifies to the virtue of Abu Bakr. Which other Sahabi has an entire verse praising him in the Quran and testifying that he's a companion to Rasulullah other than Abu Bakr? These are the two main arguments that are used to support the Imamah and Khilafah of Abu Bakr. We have spoken on the topic of Abu Bakr leading the Salah several years ago during the month of Muharram, and this lecture is uploaded on YouTube. Whoever wishes to hear it, they may hear it. The title is, Did Abu Bakr lead the Salah? And the conclusion, based upon Sunni books of hadith, was that Abu Bakr was not ordered by the Prophet to lead the Salah on that day, the day that he passed away, which was on a Monday. Rather, it was one of the wives of Rasulullah that ordered her father to lead the Salah. This is one. Two, the Prophet did not even give him a chance to lead. When Rasulullah heard Abu Bakr's voice about to perform Salah, he stood up. Although he was extremely tired, he was on his deathbed, but supported by Ali ibn Abi Talib from one side and Al-Abbas, his uncle, on the other side, he went and he led prayers while sitting down. So that's not real proof and evidence. We've refuted that argument. The second argument, the verse of the cave, Ayatul Ghar, is it virtuous for Abu Bakr? Does it prove that Abu Bakr was the legitimate Khalifa and the legitimate Imam after Rasulullah, or no? Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Some might say, why open this subject? Why open this file? The answer is that both schools of thought, the Sunni school of thought and the Shi'i school of thought, they both narrate the following hadith by Rasulullah: Man mata wa lam ya'rif imam zamanih, mata mitat al-jahiliyyah. He who dies and does not know the imam of his time will die a pagan death, meaning an idol worshipper. We have to know the imam of our time. We have to know who is our imam after the death of Rasulullah, because we will be asked on the day of judgment. We will be asked to follow our imam. Depending on where our imam goes, we will be asked to follow him. يَوْمَ نَدْعُو كُلَّ أُنَاسٍ بِإِمَامِهِمْ. Every group of people will be called by their imam. So who's your imam? We have to know this. Of course, this is a friendly, calm, objective, and academic debate. We do not mean to attack anyone. We don't mean disrespect for anyone. We don't mean to cause fitna or sectarian differences. Rather, the aim of this topic tonight is to understand one another. What do our Sunni brothers and sisters have to say about Ayatul Ghar? How do they support their argument that it leads to the Khilafah of Abu Bakr? And what do the Shia have to say about this verse? It's an academic presentation, very objective, without meaning to cause fitna. Wa sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Our Sunni brothers and sisters, they believe that this verse, Ayatul Ghar, is the number one virtue for Abu Bakr. It's the greatest virtue for Abu Bakr. Because he's mentioned in the Quran. And the Quran testifies that he's a companion of Rasulullah. And he was one of two. And they were the only two people in the cave. So they say the verse from the beginning till the end, it screams virtue for Abu Bakr. While the Shia, on the other hand, they say no. The verse does not contain virtue for Abu Bakr. Absolutely not. On the contrary, some Shia ulama emphasize or state that it contains vice for Abu Bakr. So who's telling the truth? Who is right? Are the Sunnis right when they say that the verse shows virtue for Abu Bakr? Or are the Shia right when they say the verse shows vice for Abu Bakr? This is what we will discover together tonight, inshaAllah. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. I begin with the exposition of the Sunni argument. They say, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala states, ثَانِيَ إِثْنَيْنِ إِذْ هُمَا فِي الْغَارِ. One of two that were in the cave. This is the first argument. The number one virtue for Abu Bakr. They say that this verse states five virtues. There's 5 virtues for Abu Bakr. One, he was one of two. Rasulullah was number 1. Abu Bakr was number 2. The Quran is stating ثانية اثنين. So if Rasulullah is number 1, that makes Abu Bakr number 2. Who else had this virtue? Ali ibn Abi Talib did not have this virtue. No other companion had this virtue. The Quran is testifying that Abu Bakr is number 2 after Rasulullah. ثانية اثنين إذ هما في الغار. This is 1. 2, they say that the verse is testifying that Abu Bakr is a companion of Rasulullah. If all other companions, their companionship is not certain, we're not sure, were they companions of Rasulullah or not. But Abu Bakr, we know for a fact that he was a companion of Rasulullah. For a fact. Why? Because the Quran says, إِذْ يَقُولُ لِصَاحِبِهِ لَا تَحْزَنْ. The Prophet tells his companion, Sahib. Don't we say Sahaba? Sahib is a companion. Sahaba are the companions. The Prophet tells his companion, do not be sad. إِذْ يَقُولُ لِصَاحِبِهِ لَا تَحْزَنْ. So the verse is testifying to the companionship of Rasulullah. Isn't this a virtue? When the Quran says that someone is a companion of Rasulullah. When you're someone's companion, that means you share their qualities. You share their attributes. So if your companion is pious, you are pious. If your companion is faithful, you are faithful. Companions usually share the same qualities and the same virtues. إِذْ يَقُولُ لِصَاحِبِهِ لَا تَحْزَنْ. This is 2. Number 3, لَا تَحْزَنْ. The Prophet tells Abu Bakr, do not be sad. They say this is virtuous. Because Rasulullah is showing compassion to Abu Bakr. Abu Bakr was sad. He was sad. Rasulullah was showing him empathy, sympathy, compassion. Don't be sad, ya Abu Bakr. You know, it's like when a father takes care of his son. Doesn't that show the love of the father to the son? It shows the love. It shows the compassion and the sympathy. So Abu Bakr was showing love, Rasulullah was showing love and sympathy and compassion to Abu Bakr by telling him, لا تحزن. Don't feel sad. Then they say that, no, this is not enough. This shows even more virtue for Abu Bakr. Because Rasulullah didn't tell him, لا تخف. Don't be scared. Rasulullah told him, لا تحزن. Don't be sad. And there's a difference between being afraid and being sad. Abu Bakr was not afraid. He was sad. He was not afraid. He was sad because he was worried that the mushrikeen, the people of Quraysh, will come and kill Rasulullah. So he was sad over Rasulullah. And this is good. This shows virtue of Abu Bakr. Because he was sad of Rasulullah being killed. La tahzan. So this is another virtue. Number 4. إن الله معنا إذ يقول لصاحبه لا تحزن إن الله معنا. Allah is with us. Rasulullah is telling Abu Bakr that Allah is with us. He's with me and He's with you. Is this not a virtue? For Allah to be with Rasulullah and with Abu Bakr, this is a great virtue. When Allah is with someone, that means He has his back. That means He has his support. Inna Allah ma'ana. This is another virtue. And finally, فَأَنزَلَ اللَّهُ سَكِينَتَهُ عَلَيْهِ. Allah revealed His peace and calm upon him. Upon whom? Abu Bakr. Because Abu Bakr was sad, Allah wanted to relieve him. He sent His peace and calmness upon Abu Bakr. Isn't this a virtue? For Allah to reveal His peace and calmness upon someone. فَأَنزَلَ اللَّهُ سَكِينَتَهُ عَلَيْهِ. These are 5 virtues that this verse testifies to. Now, after all of this, is this not sufficient proof that Abu Bakr is the most qualified Khalifa out of all of the Sahaba? Which other Sahabi, which other companion has virtues like this in the Holy Quran? This is the argument made by our Sunni brothers and sisters regarding Ayat al-Ghar and its virtue towards Abu Bakr. Now as for the Shi'i answer, Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. These are strong arguments made by our Sunni brothers and sisters. However, Shi'i ulama did not remain quiet. They also had an answer for all of the points. For all of the above mentioned points, Shia ulama had rebuttals and refutations. Number 1, Rasulullah tells his companion Abu Bakr, إِذْ يَقُولُ لِصَاحِبِهِ لَا تَحْزَنْ. He told his companion, he said, so what? Abu Bakr was the companion of the Prophet. So what? What does that mean? Does that mean that Rasulullah, all of the qualities that he had, they were in Abu Bakr as well? No. That doesn't mean that whatsoever. In fact, the Quran, in several positions, in several verses, talks about 2 companions. One of them was believing and the other one was a disbeliever. What do you say about that? Just because 2 people are companions, it doesn't mean that they share the same exact qualities and the same exact attributes. One could be a believer, one could be a disbeliever. For example, in Surah Yusuf, Prophet Yusuf alayhi salam was in prison. You've all heard of the story. And he had 2 companions in the prison, in his prison cell. These 2 friends, these 2 companions were pagans. They didn't even believe in God. They didn't believe in the existence of God. Yet Yusuf alayhi salam, he calls them what? My companions. Ya صاحبي السجن أأرباب متفرقون أم الله الواحد القهار. My companions in prison and in jail, which is better, various gods or one united God? Prophet Yusuf alayhi salam is calling 2 pagans two disbelievers, two people who rejected the mere existence of God, he calls them what? Companions. Ya sahibay as-sijn. I want you to memorize these verses, so that when you're asked, when you're told that the Quran testifies that Abu Bakr was a companion of Rasulullah, you have this verse ready. Another verse. The Quran tells us that sometimes a companion doesn't necessarily need to be a human. It could be an animal, but a companion. You might ask how? I'll tell you. The Quran speaks of Prophet Yunus alayhi salam. Prophet Yunus. Prophet Yunus, everyone knows the story. His people rejected him. So he asked Allah to bring down His wrath among his people. Allah told him, the sky will turn red, and then it will turn black, it will turn yellow, and then it will turn red, and then it will turn black, and then the wrath will come. Yunus alayhi salam, he left his city, Nainawa, which some say is modern day Mosul, the city that was captured by ISIS, and alhamdulillah in recent days it was released. And he went to the ocean, and a whale was about to throw the people on the ship. So Yunus had to jump in the ocean. The whale swallowed Yunus. What does the Quran say regarding Yunus? فاصبر لحكم ربك ولا تكن كصاحب الحوت. Be patient and do not be like the companion of the whale. Rasulullah had more patience than all other prophets. Rasulullah was harassed and persecuted like all other prophets and more. He says, مَا أُوذِيَ نَبِيٌّ مِثْلَ مَا أُوذِيتَ. No prophet was harassed like I was harassed. The Quran is telling him, have patience. فَاصْبِرْ لِحُكْمِ رَبِّكَ. Have patience for the sign of your God, for the judgment of your God, and don't be like the companion of the whale. Based on the Sunni argument, the whale should be the Khalifa of Yunus. This is a virtue for that whale. This whale, we should discover what was its name, its lineage. We have to write books on that whale because it was the companion of a prophet. But does anyone agree? Does anyone accept? Of course not. In another verse, Allah tells us two companions. One was a believer and the other one was a disbeliever. قال له صاحبه وهو يحاوره أكفرت بالذي خلقك من تراب. One believing companion tells another disbelieving companion, do you disbelieve in the one that created you from soil? Two companions. One a believer and one a disbeliever. More. The Quran speaks to Quraysh and says, why do you accuse your companion of being insane? Your companion meaning who? Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Rasulullah calls the Prophet the companion of Quraysh. أَوَلَمْ يَتَفَكَّرُوا مَا بِصَاحِبِهِمْ مِنْ جُنَّةٍ. Do they not think that their companion is not insane? Junnah means insanity. That's why we call an insane person Majnoon. Majnoon and Junnah, same meaning. And it comes from the root word jan, which means not to be seen. That's why we say Janna alayhi al-layl. Janna alayhi al-layl is when the night covers so you cannot see. And the word jinn, why are they called jinn? Because they cannot be seen. Anyhow, these are various verses that speak of companions. One of them is a believer and the other one is not a believer. So how do you prove to me that when Rasulullah told his companion, إِذْ يَقُولُ لِصَاحِبِهِ لَا تَحْزَنْ. So what? What does it mean? Does that mean that he had all of his qualities and all of his attributes, including piety and righteousness? The verse does not mean that. I'm not denying these qualities. We would need proof and justification for those. But to prove that the companion had these qualities, the proof does not say that. We cannot give the verse more than it entails. This is one. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. This is one. Two, they say Allah brought down His peace and calmness upon whom? Abu Bakr. Because he was sad. He was afraid and sad. So Allah brought down His peace and calmness upon Abu Bakr. And this is a virtue. The answer. Who said Allah revealed His peace and calmness upon Abu Bakr? Allah revealed His peace and calmness upon whom? Rasulullah. Because look at the verse. The verse is full of pronouns. All of the pronouns are talking about whom? Rasulullah. Why is it that when we reach this word, we say that it belongs to Abu Bakr? That's not correct. See? The verse begins with إِلَّا تَنْصُرُوهُ. If you do not support him, whom? Rasulullah. فَقَدْ نَصَرَهُ اللَّهُ. Allah has supported him, whom? Rasulullah. إِذْ أَخْرَجَهُ. As he was driven out, whom? Rasulullah. إِذْ يَقُولُ لِصَاحِبِهِ. He tells his companion, whom? Rasulullah. لَا تَحْزَنْ. Do not be sad. إِنَّ اللَّهَ مَعْنَا. فَأَنزَلَ اللَّهُ سَكِينَتَهُ عَلَيْهِ. So Allah revealed His peace and calmness upon him. Upon whom? Rasulullah. Why do we misinterpret the verse? All of the pronouns are talking about Rasulullah. Why is it that when we reach this word, we say it's revealed regarding Abu Bakr? That's wrong. Doesn't match. It doesn't work together. The verse is talking about Rasulullah. Rasulullah, Allah sent His peace and calmness upon him. You might ask, but who was afraid? Who was sad? Was Abu Bakr sad or Rasulullah? Allah sends His peace and calmness upon the one that was sad. Rasulullah was not sad. He doesn't need the peace and calmness. Abu Bakr was sad. He's the one that needs the peace and calmness. Right? Wrong. The Quran tells us in other instances in which the Sahaba were afraid. The Sahaba were sad and afraid, yet Allah sends His peace and calmness upon Rasulullah and the Sahaba. On Rasulullah. So just because Rasulullah was not sad, it doesn't mean that he was not the recipient of peace and calmness. لَقَدْ نَصَرَكُمُ اللَّهُ فِي مَوَاطِنَ كَثِيرًا. Allah has supported you in various positions. وَيَوْمَ حُنَيْنٍ إِذْ أَعْجَبَتْكُمْ كَثْرَتُكُمْ فَلَمْ تُغْنِ عَنْكُمْ شَيْئًا وَضَاقَتْ عَلَيْكُمُ الْأَرْضُ بِمَا رَحُبَتْ ثُمَّ وَلَّيْتُمْ مُدْبِرِينَ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks on various battles when the Muslims fought and Allah supported them. But specifically at the Battle of Hunayn. What happened at the Battle of Hunayn? Muslims were in big numbers. They were more than the mushrikeen. They were more than the enemy soldiers. But the enemy soldiers almost defeated them. Almost defeated them. Why? Because the Muslims, they were fooled by their numbers. They thought that there were big numbers so they could defeat the armies. Just like today, we're fooled by our numbers. We think that Muslims are big numbers. 2 billion Muslims. 2 billion, so what? Look at some followers of other religions. They're a fraction of us. And look and how much power and influence they have, and look at how much power and influence we have. Look at the Muslims in Myanmar and what's happening to them and how the world is silent. Where's our big numbers? Where's the 2 billion Muslims that are so proud of their numbers when it comes to rescuing their brothers and sisters in Myanmar? What happened? At the Battle of Hunain, same thing. Big numbers, but it meant nothing. So the Muslims were frightened. They were scared. When they saw the enemy soldiers, they were scared. What does Allah do? It was the Sahaba that were scared, not the Prophet. ثُمَّ أَنزَلَ اللَّهُ سَكِينَتَهُ عَلَى رَسُولِهِ وَعَلَى الْمُؤْمِنِينَ وَأَنزَلَ جُنُودًا لَمْ تَرَوْهَا. Allah revealed His peace and calmness upon the Prophet. صلى على محمد وآل محمد. So just because Abu Bakr was sad, it doesn't mean that he was the recipient of calmness and peace. Okay. They said in their argument that Abu Bakr was one of two. ثانية اثنين. ثانية اثنين, one of two. Isn't this a great virtue? Out of all of the Sahaba, it was Abu Bakr to be one of two. ثانية اثنين. Rasulullah is number one, and Abu Bakr is number two. No one other than Abu Bakr had this virtue. The answer, again, this is a misinterpretation of the verse. ثانية اثنين, he is one of two, or literally second of two. ثانية اثنين, he's the second of two. The verse is speaking about whom? We said the verse, all of the pronouns belong to whom? Rasulullah. So the second of two is whom? Rasulullah. Rasulullah is the second of two. So who's the first? Abu Bakr. Abu Bakr is first, Rasulullah is two. Does this mean this is a virtue for him? Absolutely not. Because if being number one in this scenario was a virtue, that makes him greater than whom? Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. You see? It's no virtue for him. Rasulullah is the second of two. ثانية اثنين إذ هما في الغار. That is Rasulullah. The first is whom? Is Abu Bakr. But that's not a virtue. He's one of two. That is no virtue for him. Because if that was a virtue for him, that would have made him greater than Rasulullah. He should have been the Prophet. And Rasulullah should have been his companion. But everyone agrees that Rasulullah is the greatest human being. Which of the companions was greater than Rasulullah? None. So that's not a virtue. We have to pay attention to these details. When they tell you he's one of two, he's the second of two with Rasulullah, you tell them, hold on a second. He was not the second, he was the first. Because the verse is referring to Rasulullah as the second. And Abu Bakr is the first. But that is absolutely not a virtue. Because that would make him greater than Rasulullah. And he cannot be greater than Rasulullah. Let's pay attention to these details. Also, does anywhere in the verse, they say the verse speaks of virtue for Abu Bakr. Does the verse tell us that Rasulullah chose for Abu Bakr to be with him in the cave? That he went and knocked on his door and he called him and he took him to the cave with him? No. There's absolutely no mentioning of how Abu Bakr ended up being with Rasulullah. And we know from history that Abu Bakr was going to the cave by himself. Abu Bakr saw him, he followed him. It's not that Rasulullah chose for Abu Bakr to be with him in the cave. There's a big difference. There's a big difference for you to happen to be there, or for you to be chosen to be with Rasulullah. The verse does not mention anything about Abu Bakr being chosen to be with Rasulullah. And that's a big difference. There's a big difference between the two. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. They say that Abu Bakr was sad, and Rasulullah showed sympathy for him by telling him not to be sad. قال له إذ يقول لصاحبه لا تحزن. Do not be sad. They say this is virtue. Rasulullah was showing him sympathy. Let me ask you a question. If I see you doing something and I tell you don't do it, stop, don't do it. What you're doing, is it a good thing or a bad thing? Is it a good thing or a bad thing? If it's a good thing, why would I tell you to stop? I would tell you do it more. It's a good thing. But when I tell you to stop doing what you're doing, that means it's a bad thing. You shouldn't be doing it. Rasulullah is telling him, لا تحزن, don't be sad. How is this a virtue? If being sad was a good thing, then there's no reason for Rasulullah to tell him not to be sad. So it can be a good thing. It can only mean one thing, and it's a bad thing. So is this a virtue or is this a vice? Also, they say that Abu Bakr was not sad for himself. Abu Bakr was sad for Rasulullah. He was afraid that Rasulullah was about to be killed, so he was sad. How do you know this? Were you in the heart of Abu Bakr to know he was sad for this or for that? How do you know what was in the heart of Abu Bakr? Was he sad for himself or was he sad for Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam? Most presumably, he was sad for whom? He was sad for himself, because he was in a cave and the enemies were outside with weapons ready to cut into pieces and to cut off heads. And that's normal for you to be sad, to fear for your life. So how do you know that Abu Bakr was sad for Rasulullah? How do you know this? This is just mere speculation, if not fabrication. Also, as we conclude, they say that the verse screams of virtue for Abu Bakr. The verse is all about virtues for Abu Bakr. That Abu Bakr was in the cave with Rasulullah. Rasulullah told him, don't be sad. And then Allah revealed, Allah set His peace and calmness upon him. Where in the verse does it mention the name of Abu Bakr? They say no, his name is not mentioned in the Quran. His name is not mentioned in the verse. So how do you know? إِذْ يَقُولُ لِصَاحِبِهِ, he tells his companion, that was Abu Bakr. They say hadith. We have books of hadith that say that that companion was Abu Bakr. I say, hold on a minute. Do you want to support your argument from the Quran or from the hadith? 1 minute you tell me you're supporting your argument from the Quran. The Quran does not mention the name of Abu Bakr. What mentions the name of Abu Bakr is hadith. So let's come to that hadith. Don't tell me the Quran. If you tell me that the Quran testifies to the virtue of Abu Bakr, show me the name of Abu Bakr in this verse. It's not mentioned in the verse. If you tell me hadith, then I say, okay, then let's argue regarding the hadith. Don't tell me the Quran then. Don't say the Quran testifies to the virtue of Abu Bakr, because it doesn't. Because his name is not mentioned in the verse. Do you see this argument? This argument is very important. You might say, Sayyid, are you denying that the person who was in the cave was Abu Bakr? No. I'm not denying. Most likely it was Abu Bakr, and there is a chance it could have been someone else, because the verse does not tell us who. The narrations that told us who, we have to come and search the narrations, which is in Sirah, As-Sirah Nabawiyah. And everyone knows that As-Sirah Nabawiyah, especially written by Ibn Ishaq and Ibn Hisham, it's full of fabrications. Full of fabrications. All academic scholars know this, that the field of Sirah is full of fabrications. So how can we know for sure that it was Abu Bakr? And the verse is speaking regarding him. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. In conclusion, after this exposition of the verse, Ayat al-Ghar, after having studied the Sunni position of the verse, and after studying the Shi'i position of the verse, what conclusion do we reach? Does the verse show virtue for Abu Bakr? In my humble opinion, according to my understanding of the verse, it does not show virtue for Abu Bakr. It does not show virtue. And that is to say the least. If it doesn't show vice, but I will stop there. I will not argue that it shows vice for Abu Bakr, but I will say that the verse does not show, out of respect for our Sunni brothers and sisters, but the verse does not show virtue for Abu Bakr. And even if it did, let's, hypothetically speak, let's hypothetically say that even if the verse showed virtue for Abu Bakr, does it match the verses that show virtue for the Ahlul Bayt? فَقُلْ تَعَالَوْا نَدْعُ أَبْنَاءَنَا وَأَبْنَاءَكُمْ وَنِسَاءَنَا وَنِسَاءَكُمْ وَأَنفُسَنَا وَأَنفُسَكُمْ ثُمَّ نَبْتَهِلْ. When the Prophet met with Nasara Najran, the Christians of Najran, and they decided to have a mubahala. And we recently celebrated the day of mubahala in the end of Dhul Hijjah. In mubahala, you have to bring the closest people to you. Your children, your women, and yourselves. All scholars of hadith, all scholars of tafsir, they testify that Rasulullah took with him Fatima al-Zahra, nisa'ana. Al-Hasan wal-Hussein, abna'ana. And as for ourselves, anfusana, he took with him whom? Ali ibn Abi Talib. And that is how we prove that Ali ibn Abi Talib was the self of Rasulullah. He was the self, the equivalent of Rasulullah. You might say, well, Sayyid, this is hadith. We want something from the Quran. You want something from the Quran? إنما يريد الله ليذهب عنكم الرجس أهل البيت. Does this require hadith? Does this require tafsir for us to say what this scholar said or that scholar said? No. This is obvious. إنما يريد الله ليذهب عنكم الرجس أهل البيت. The household of the Prophet. And the household of the Prophet were not the wives of the Prophet. Because if it was the wives of the Prophet, the Quran would have said, إنما يريد الله ليذهب عنكن الرجس ويطهركن. Just like the sections before it and the sections after it. If you look at this verse, ayat al-tathir, the pronouns before it are speaking to the wives of the Prophet. After it, it's speaking to the wives of the Prophet. But only in this section, it's a male pronoun, male-dominated pronoun. إنما يريد الله ليذهب عنكم الرجس أهل البيت ويطهركم. This is a male-dominated pronoun, not female. This verse is not talking about the wives of the Prophet. It's talking about the Ahlul Bayt. And another verse, قُلْ لَا أَسْأَلُكُمْ عَلَيْهِ أَجْرًا إِلَّا الْمَوَدَّةَ فِي الْقُرْبَى. Say, I do not ask for you anything in return for delivering the message. Rasulullah served this community, the Islamic community, for 24 years or 23 years. The Quran says, tell them, Ya Rasulullah, that you don't ask for anything in return except for one thing that was not even done. Tell them, love my family members. Show them love. Show them compassion. Just love them. Imagine all of the oppression that occurred on the Ahlul Bayt, and Rasulullah had asked, love my family members. Imagine what would have happened to them if Rasulullah had not asked them for love for the Ahlul Bayt. Imagine. He asked them for love of the family, and look at what they did. If he hadn't asked for love for the family, what would they have done? So does Ayat al-Ghar match with these verses and other narrations? Does it match with the narrations reported in Sunni books regarding Imam Hussein only? Let's leave Imam Ali and Fatima al-Zahra and the other Ahlul Bayt. Only Imam Hussein. حسين مني وأنا من حسين. Hussein is from me and I am from Hussein. أحب الله من أحب حسين. The one who loves Hussein loves Allah. This is in Sunni books. Another narration mentioned in Sunni books, a narration by Ubay ibn Ka'b. Ubay ibn Ka'b says, we were in the mosque of Rasulullah when 3-year-old Imam Hussein entered, and Hussein ibn Ali. He entered the mosque. He said Rasulullah was busy speaking to us, talking to us. When the 3-year-old Hussein entered the mosque, Rasulullah left us. He ignored the companions and he went after Imam Hussein and he said, Assalamu alayka ya Aba Abdullah. Imam Hussein was only 3 years old. Yeah, look at how Rasulullah speaks to him. He calls him Aba Abdullah. Assalamu alayka ya zinat as-samawati wal ard. Peace be upon you, O ornament of the sky and the earth. Ubay says, I was shocked. So I asked him, Ya Rasulullah, your grandchild is zinat as-samawati wal ard? I thought you are zinat as-samawati wal ard. I thought you are the ornament of the sky and the earth. He said, Ya Ubay, when I was taken to the sky, لما أسري بي إلى السماء, when I reached a position, ثم دنا فتدلى فكان قاب قوسين أو أدنى, when I reached a position in which Jibreel would not be able to escort me, I saw the throne of God. I saw the throne of God. فرأيت مكتوبا على يمين العرش أن الحسين مصباح الهدى وسفينة النجاة. He said, I saw written on the right side of the throne of Allah, أن الحسين مصباح الهدى. Hussein is the lantern of guidance and the ark of salvation. Assalamu alayka ya Aba Abdullah. وعلى الأرواح التي حلت بفنائك. عليكم مني جميعا سلام الله أبدا ما بقيت. وبقي الليل والنهار. My dear brothers and sisters, tonight, as we go into the nights of Muharram, tonight I'd like to take you to a special place, not in Karbala, but a place in which the heart of Imam Hussein rested, and that is in Sham. In Sham, where the family of Rasulullah and the family of Imam Hussein was taken as captives to Yazid. They were put in a shackle, in a dumpster. Yazid is sitting in his palace, yet the daughters of Imam Hussein and the sisters of Imam Hussein and the daughters of Rasulullah were put in a dumpster. Imam Zayn al-Abidin. Imam Hussein alayhi salam had a 3-year-old daughter by the name of Ruqayya. Just 3 years old. Very loved, very spoiled by Imam Hussein alayhi salam. Ever since the day of Ashura, Ruqayya would ask about her father. Her aunt Zainab would tell her, your father is traveling. He's traveling. And she meant the journey to the next life. He's on a journey. One night when they were in Sham and Yazid in his palace drinking, drunk, Ruqayya was asleep. She saw her father in her dream, holding her, embracing her, seating her in her lap, and on his lap. Ruqayya all of a sudden wakes up and she sees that her father is not there. She begins to cry. My father, you were just with me. My father, I was just sitting on your lap. Where are you? Her aunt Zainab comes to her. She says, Bunayya, Bunayya, inna abaki fi safar. Your father's on a journey. He's on a very long journey. He will not be coming anytime recent. She says, but he was just with me moments ago. The entire camp begins to cry. All of the women. Ruqayya stirred the emotions of all of the women, all of the children, all of the orphans. They all joined her in screaming and shouting, crying for their fathers, crying for their brothers. The sound of crying reached the palace of Yazid, la'anahullah. Yazid was drinking. He asked, why do I hear crying? They told him one of the daughters of Hossein woke up in the middle of the night asking for her father. He said, yes, take her, the head of her father. As Ruqayya was crying, they brought a dish covered, not knowing what's in this dish. They brought it to the camp. جابوا شافتهم من بعيد وصاحت هلا براسك يا نعميد يا هلال عزنا بليلة العيد ليش تركتنا بين ناس مش جاويد. They brought the plate, they brought the dish to the camp, to Imam Zayn al-Abidin alayhi salam. Imam Zayn al-Abidin called his sister Ruqayya. He said, my dear sister, they brought you what you wanted. She said, my brother, I did not ask for food. I am not hungry. They opened the lid and she saw the severed head of her father, Aba Abdullah. She saw the drenched beard and blood. Aba, man alladhi qata'a ar-ra's al-sharif. من الذي خضب الشيب العفيف من الذي أيتمني على صغر سني. My dear father, who did this to you? Who severed your head? Who drenched your head in sand and blood? Who made me an orphan? Ruqayya grabbed the head and she began to cry and cry for an hour or so until she stopped. Everyone thought that Ruqayya had fallen asleep from so much crying. Imam Zayn al-Abidin looked to his aunt Zainab. He said, Amma, pull my sister from the head. When they pulled Ruqayya, they saw that she was dead. It's as if a Sayyidah Zainab alayhi salam spoke to her brother Aba Abdullah. خويا خويا أنا تمرمرت والله بيتامك. خويا خويا أنا مالي حل فرقاك. هاي تصيح عمه وين عمي وذيك تصيح فارقني ابن أمي. لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون. شيخنا تفضلوا، تفضلوا مولانا. نسألك اللهم وندعوك باسمك العظيم الأعظم الأعز الأجل الأكرم يا الله. My dear brothers and sisters, there are so many people that look forward to your dua in these nights. There are people with cancer. There are people with strokes. There are people with deadly diseases and illnesses. They're looking for these majalis and for your dua. They're waiting for your dua to pray for them during these majalis. Do not be greedy in your dua. Raise your hands and pray to Allah for the sake of Imam Hussein alayhi salam to cure them. اللهم لا تدع لنا ذنبا إلا غفرته ولا هما إلا فرجته ولا عيبا إلا سترته ولا خوفا إلا آمنته ولا رزقا إلا بسطته ولا شملا إلا جمعته ولا مرضا إلا شفيته ولا غائبا إلا حفظته وأدنيته ولا حاجة من حوائج الدنيا والآخرة لك فيها رضا ولنا فيها صلاح إلا قضيتها ويسرتها يا أرحم الراحمين. ولأرواح المؤمنين والمؤمنات والعلماء والشهداء نقرأ سورة الفاتحة مع الصلوات.